Let me start off by saying that I had no intention of writing this down, but my friends ordered me to do it. A few months ago, I was searching up around CEX for some cheap games when I stumbled upon a SpongeBob DVD entitled SpongeBob Needs Help. The cover had a picture of SpongeBob sitting on a therapy lounge chair while a man sits across him. An actual man. It was a big fat guy with a bald head and glasses. I paid for the item and the cashier looked at me weirdly before saying, "Have a lovely day." I took it back to my house and I threw the disc onto my PS2, and the DVD showed some commercials for other SpongeBob DVDs and a weird video of a guy choke cooking dinner and mumbling things under his breath. Weird, I thought to myself. Anyways, the main menu appeared, and it was a really bad looking. I mean, seriously, it had white written text all over and a badly cropped picture of Patrick with sunglasses on. There was the only caption which read "Played Episode." I clicked on it and the episode began to play, but it had no Paramount or Nickelodeon logos, nothing. The intro was normal, but instead of it being the pirate captain who says, "Are you ready, kids?" it just cut to a random dude dressed in a drag who said, "Sup boys, be ready for some real shit." I was shocked. The word shit was being said on a kid's show. I fake not. I didn't stop the DVD, however, as I was weirdly entertained. The intro then played like normal, but the music was odd. It sounded like a rap that would have been made by Eminem or Snoopy Dogg. And also, SpongeBob didn't appear at the end of the intro to play his nose. Instead, it cut to a 2-second clip of a man shaking in his head. The title card then appeared that read, "SpongeBob Needs Help," in big red letters with a white background. The funny sax part of the song was "The Careless Whisper" was playing in the background. The episode then started off with SpongeBob cooking Krabby Patties and talking about how he had not taken his meds for the day, and his eyes began to twitch and turn green. Mr. Krabs then burst in and yells, "SpongeBobby boy, where are my sweet dough?" SpongeBob didn't even listen. Instead, he lunged forward towards Mr. Krabs and proceeded to brutally beat him to death. Wow, that was shocking. I thought to myself. I shoved a massive pizza slice into my mouth. The police then busted in and grabbed SpongeBob, throwing him into one of the cop cars outside of the Krusty Krab. A type card pops up with the screen which read 2 hours later. Only it wasn't read by the usual French narrator. Instead, it was read by someone who sounded Jamaican. After the title card, an outside view of the building, which entitled Bikini Bottom House of Mental Health, was shown. SpongeBob was taken to 2 officers into a therapy room. The therapist looked like the guy from the front of the DVD, and he said, "So Nathan, I see you haven't had your meds again." Nathan, I asked myself. Why would he be calling SpongeBob Nathan? Suddenly SpongeBob changed from being, well, SpongeBob, to a man who looked like he was in his 20s, wearing a yellow shirt and a brown trousers. The therapist, who I looked at his name tag and learned that his name was Gabe Daniels, looked at SpongeBob with a contempt before saying, "Nathan, you've got to stop doing this. You're not a sea sponge. There's no Bikini Bottom, and there isn't a Krusty Krab." Nathan then looked at Gabe and said in a voice that sounded like Mike Myers in The Cat in the Hat, "Want to prove that, Buster?" Before lunging at Gabe, like SpongeBob did to Mr. Krabs earlier in the episode. However, Nathan was restrained by 2 bodyguards who one of them looked like the guy who was cooking his dinner earlier, and the other guy looked like he was dressed and dragged into the intro. They looked at Nathan down and held him down as Gabe pulled out a dirty needle filled with green liquid. "I'm afraid this is gonna hurt," Gabe said before throwing the needle right into Nathan's neck, knocking him out. I was no scared. I really hate needles, but this? Again, who doesn't? So then Gabe has his bodyguards carry the now unconscious Nathan to his new room at the mental ward. After Nathan was placed onto his bed, Nathan gently patted his head before saying in a quiet whisper, "Welcome home, Nathan." The episode then ended with the credits being displayed as the white text on the black background. The music that went play when the credits was "Smoke Weed Every Day," sung by the French narrator. Then once again the credits were over, and it showed a sick clip of a man wearing a potato sack over his head, carrying a chainsaw chasing a farmer down yelling, "Get off of me property!" The disc then popped out on my PS2 by itself, but I put it back in so I could record it as proof of its existence. I recorded it, only the difference was that he post-credits scene had the man with the chainsaw staring at the screen, who said in a rather too happily, if I may add, "Dear reader, you know like me episode?" It showed a video of Mickey Mouse dancing on ice while demonic music played in the background. I recorded that too. The following day I emailed Nickelodeon, hoping to get some sort of answers about that episode. They emailed me back with, "Hey, sorry we scared you. You see, this episode you watched was actually intended to be the series finale of SpongeBob SquarePants, but it was cancelled for being too dark, and as well as the fact that we've decided to renew the series for the 13th season. Like, we like money. Please do not go public with the DVD, as it could ruin our reputation. Thank you for your time. Lots of love. Nickelodeon staff and interns." I called 999, and I needed someone who would actually give me some answers. The police arrived at my door a few hours later, and a big fat policeman walked in. He sat down in the living room and let out a big fart, which had made the ground shake, I'm telling ya. "Right, you gotta get out of here. I needed to talk to this young man in private, if you don't mind," the police said to his fellow officers, and said that they were told, and left the house. "I'm no trouble, am I?" asked. "All I can say is that your DVD might be useful and possible in the lawsuit against Nickelodeon. I'll need you to know on how you found it, and if you like to appeal the comparison." Sterenson, the policeman said as he farted again, even louder than last time. 10 minutes later, I got up from the sofa and asked the policeman, who revealed his name to be Rabe Manuels, who wanted a cup of tea. He said yes. I headed to the kitchen to start making it. Rabe then got off the sofa and another large fart and began speaking again. "This DVD worries me. You see, these kind of lost episode things tend to be just new rumors, stories that people just make up just to get attention. But from the footage that you're showing by all the accounts, it appears to be Junie," Rabe said, before continuing, "This DVD is trouble, and the person who made it is also trouble. And that's my job, eliminating trouble." I heard him say that before he put his big meaty hand around my mouth. "What the hell are you doing?" I yelled at the top of my lungs. "We told you not to go public about the DVD," Rabe said, as he had a grip around my mouth tighter and tighter. "I just want answers," I yelled, in a muffled voice. "And the answers you shall have," Rabe said, as he made his grip tighter and tighter, and I looked at him and realized that he was the therapist from the episode. Just as I thought I was about to die, I heard the door slam open as Rabe's fellow officers came in holding donuts and coffee. "Sup, Rabe, you forgot your dough. Oh, sugar, honey and cream, and iced tea," one of the officers said. Rabe let me go and ran off outside and never to be seen again. I passed out after falling to the floor. Months have passed since the incident, and life has gone back to normal for the most part. I still don't know what that policeman wanted to do with me, or even if he was a policeman. But the rest I can assure you, dear reader, as I got my two best cops, Sam and Max, on the case. And that, my little pretties, was SpongeBob Needs Help. A SpongeBob lost episode, creepypasta. I know it says creepypasta, but I think, to me, I find this more of it's a pretty good story for what it is. Written by Matthew Bumford. I know this was in a category that said read by the Shadow Reader, and then they say it says for the Shadow Reader, and I mean, I decided to take a look at this story. Yeah, my final thoughts on this story? Well, I could definitely say it's more of a creepy, funny pasta, but you guys might think otherwise. So, I mean, I mean, this is actually a pretty good story that Matthew Bumford actually did. I mean, Dave the Useless, I do know he narrated this. I mean, of course, I would have to say, it was meant to be a funny pasta, but it does come off more of a troll pasta. But I would have to say it's pretty good. I mean, it's a pretty interesting story for what this one is. Like, I really generally like this pasta. Like SpongeBob going all nuts all of a sudden, and then, I mean, the plot of it seemed pretty simple and pretty interesting for what this story really is. Like, I mean, I've seen, this story. I think I've seen Shadow narrated this at one point before his old channel got terminated, which I do hope Shadow does decide to re-upload the narration of it, because I actually found this one to be a fun story. I mean, the grammar is really good, as well as the sentence structuring, the storyline. I mean, seeing SpongeBob going to like a mental asylum or something, I honestly can see that being the case, because I know there was one where Mrs. Puff goes to jail, and I think there was like in a dream where she's like in a mental asylum or something. I think that's from what I remember personally. I don't remember though, but I think that's from what I do know, but I could be wrong though. Now, for one thing I would have to say was that I really do find that the story itself had a really good concept going for. I mean, SpongeBob has done a lot of weird things in the past, and I mean, even though this was supposed to be the finale of SpongeBob, but it didn't air because it was too dark. I mean, SpongeBob does, dark episodes all the time. Like, I mean, I've seen a couple of SpongeBob episodes that were dark and messed up. I mean, this one, I know in the comments of this says that, Matthew Bumford said it was meant to be a funny pasta. So I guess like you could say it's a funny pasta. I mean, looking at this one, I honestly really do like how it's a pretty good story for what this is. Now, I did actually take a look at this story maybe last year or something, but I hadn't had the opportunity to narrate it because I've been busy with, reading a bunch of everybody else's stories and all that. So I finally decided to have a chance to actually take a look at this one. Now, for one thing I could definitely say is that I know SpongeBob, unchar- undoing stuff that is uncharacteristic of him, being Mr. Krabs up to death and all that. I know it's a funny pasta. I can honestly see maybe SpongeBob doing that if he were to go insane for whatever reason. But I mean, I've seen SpongeBob, does a lot of weird things. And I would have to say, this story is definitely a lot better than the SpongeBob episodes that they have out nowadays. Now, there's an author's note at the end of this, so I'm just going to give it a read at this. This is my first creepypasta, and any feedback is greatly appreciated. Don't be afraid to get overly nitpicking as it helps me with my future stories I may plan to write in the future. Thank you for taking your time to read this amazing work of art. Well, Matthew Bumford, in addition to this is actually a pretty good story. Not bad for a first story, actually. I know I've read plenty of your stories. This is actually a good one. I mean, like, not bad for like a first story that you actually wrote. This story actually is pretty good for what this is. So this is on the Geoshia Lost Episode Wiki, and that's where I usually read most of stories that Matthew Bumford writes. I mean, I think I've read Homeless SpongeBob on Spin Pasta, but I mean, I did see this story maybe a few years ago, so I decided to give it a shot at reading this. So, one thing I'm going to say, Matthew Bumford, you did a pretty good job writing this story. I'm not going to lie. This story was fantastic. Amazing, really well done. I can honestly see this being a real episode of SpongeBob. I mean, SpongeBob does a lot of weird things when it comes to dark topics and, dark episodes that are really dark and messed up. I mean, I've seen, SpongeBob, it's not out of the ordinary for SpongeBob to do something like this. Although it would be more kid friendly than how the episode right here actually went out. Like, I can honestly see that being the case. But anyways, with that being the case, that being said, I actually like this episode. It's beautifully well made. It was well detailed, amazing. I really do find this story to be very enjoyable, really well made, and it's just that good. So, anyways, with that being said, like I'm going to say right now, and like I'll always continue to say, this is simply my own personal opinion. And if you happen to disagree with me, that is perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas or funny pastas, whatever you prefer to call this one. If you want to call this a creepypasta, that's fine. If you want to call this a funny pasta, that's perfectly okay with you, me too, because we're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these pastas, and depending on how you're looking at this. Now, my final rating of this story is definitely a 10 out of 10. Matthew Bumford, this story was fantastic. Not a bad story for your first time writing. It's not a bad story at all. It's really well done in detail. It's fantastic. So, anyways, I do hope Shadow re-uploads this narration, his old narration of this story from his old channel if he managed to archive it. But yet again, I don't know if he archived this story, his narration from his perspective. I don't remember. I think he might have done it, but I could be wrong, however, but I don't know. So, with that being said, what did you guys think about this funny pasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode, and if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.